Hello everyone, Sim here, and yes, Xbox Spot, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to react to another game theory video, since I haven't done one in a very long time, so I decided to react to one right now. And that very video is called, You Are the Villain of Poppy Playtime. Now if you guys are a fan of indie games like me, you would know that Poppy Playtime is one of the most popular indie games out right now, aside from Dark Survival. Now I am fully aware that this video has been out for like a while now, since it's been 7 months since it's been posted. However, the thing is, I don't care. To be honest with you, I just want to react to something other than FNAF. As much as I love that series from the bottom of my heart, I'm just so sick and tired of the loose storyline it brings. So with all this being said, let's just get this over with and react to this video already. Alright, let's get straight down to it, alright? Ooh, nice animation. Okay, get straight down to it.
Oh, goody. Another juicy
Mommy Longlegs. Who do you guys think is more creepier, Huggy Wuggy or Mommy Longlegs? Because honest, I don't know. Like Mommy Longlegs seems more creepier in my opinion.
Oh, don't be frightened by those.
It's the prototypes.
They were just scrap fodder for the pile. There are far greater threats here than you realize. You will make a fine addition. Join me. Join me.
Okay.
Hello,
just straight to the point.
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's constantly reaching and stretching for answers. So, kind of like the nerdier version of Mommy Longlegs. And
so the episode begins with Obi-Wan meditating as he remembered the words of the
Poppy Playtime.
So the episode begins with Obi-Wan meditating, remembering the words of kind of to think about it, she hasn't really done anything relevant like throughout the entire game, remembering the sister's words. I mean, sure, she's like we get a little montage. I mean, sure, she helped us, but like, mostly she just basically does nothing.
Poppy was created using the soul and body parts of Stella Graber, an employee of Playtime Co. However, this chapter revealed that Stella was still very much alive when Mommy Longlegs was introduced back in the 1990s.
I think I actually watched this video before.
In the 1950s, timeline didn't really work out. So, who then is Poppy? Well, it turns out she's the adopted daughter of Playtime Co.'s founder, Elliot Ludwig, a girl who died tragically.
Where he then has a meeting with the third sister, right? He basically tells her that he doesn't care about the Grand Inquisitor, and that all that matters is that she finds Obi-Wan. Not only that, but also giving him a pretty sweet deal of becoming the Grand Inquisitor if she managed to capture Obi-Wan. He then called to Obi-Wan, who managed to fix I just gotta say, what is with these indie game companies just experimenting on children? Seriously, like, there's so many indie games that just seriously, there's so many indie games where like the lore always starts with people dying and becoming possessing like inanimate objects to life and to monstrous creatures. There's obviously FNAF, there's Bendy the Ink Machine, and now Poppy Playtime. Like, why is there so many dead kids in indie games? Like, and it always happens whenever the companies experiment on children IPs. They must be really that desperate to gain money. They're willing to let people die in order to bring things to life. And it's always the children IPs. Like, seriously, let these things go and Obi-Wan tells Leia that this place is a mining system. Obi-Wan tells Leia that this place is a mining system, and it actually used to have a lot of fields and family. That was the case until the Empire. Most likely, like the final boss of the entire game. Leia was curious on. I'm not sure why. Leia was curious on that subject, as he thought Leia was a bit curious about that subject because she thought the Empire was supposed to be helping them. Leia was curious on that. Leia was curious about that topic because she thought that the Empire was supposed to help them.
Alright, maybe not the last
in which Obi-Wan responds to her dad and her people. Are trying to. Essentially telling her that the Empire aren't the people they're
I mean,
Right.
look at all the blood.
Essentially telling her that the Empire aren't the people there.
You would already know how this
Chapter
goes.
1, he leaves blood splatter on all the
Essentially
plates
telling her
and
that the
combine
Empire
that
aren't what
with
they
the
say.
theory that Stella was inside a pile.
As he said this,
You got yourself
as
a
he said
recipe
this,
for
he
the
getting,
gruesome company
as he said this, he got a case of deja vu as he sees that
in a different direction. Once you defeat Mommy Longlegs and get back to the game station to free Poppy, you can find 2 notes on either side of the control panel. One is about a scientist complaining about the lack of natural light in the lab, which, let me tell you, as someone who literally locked
As he
himself
said,
in the closet
as he
for
said this,
episodes, totally get
as
that.
he said this, he got a case of deja vu as he sees Anakin right before.
It starts off harmless
Okay.
enough, just a list of instructions for employees working on the game station floor. Quote,
Right.
start by reporting to the control station.
In
Always
front
keep
of
a
it.
minimum distance of 20 yards away from Mommy Longlegs. The train will arrive with the children at 8 a.m. All children will be gathered inside the game station all at once. The order of the games will be musical memory, whack-a-wuggy, then
As he said this, he saw. As he said this, he got a case of deja vu as he sees Anakin in a distance.
Yeah.
The last section where my theorist senses
As he
really
said
start
that,
to
as he
pick
said
up.
this,
Again,
that,
only one
as he said this, he got a case. As he said this, Obi-Wan got a case. As he said this, Obi-Wan got a case of deja vu as he sees Anakin in the distance, only to find out, only to realize,
statues, agility,
only to realize that it was only a
Like an
hallucination.
obstacle. This is like the
Only
Hunger
to
Games
only to
thing.
realize it was only a hallucination.
Actually, scratch that. It's more like Squid Game, sorry.
Test children and
We didn't-
monitor their skills. And that's not all. When you break out of the statues game, you can actually find 2 of these
We then
reports
see that
inside the room
we then
where
see
a
that the
child
third
named
sister
Michaela
has arrived at
Each
some
project
point.
goes through and explains how Michaela performed in each task. Quote, she has a good grasp
We then-
of concept and decent performance, but
We
Michaela
then
made mistakes on
we then
several
cut to the third
tasks.
sister
Like all
arriving.
cats-
We then
like all
cut to
kids
the
do.
third sister arriving at some sort of underwater. We then cut to the third sister arriving at some sort.
Improvement reflected in her scores, going from 331 to 4.
Oh, so they're bringing them in every day.
We then cut to.
I mean, it makes sense. They practically
We
adopted
then
them.
cut to the we then cut to the third sister arriving at a base. We then cut to the third sister arriving at a underwater base.
Each individual child, unless of course you needed that child.
She tells the other inquisitors that Obi-Wan is most likely in one of the mining systems.
Yep, there it is.
She tells the other inquisitors that Obi-Wan is most likely in one of the mining systems.
Turning into monsters, I
According
swear.
to the document, it doesn't work. We talked about all that last episode.
Alright.
However, something we didn't mention last episode was that at the end of the note, Elliot leaves us.
She tells the other inquisitors that she tracked.
A rat would yield
She tells the other inquisitor. She tells the other inquisitor. She tells the other inquisitors that Obi-Wan is most likely at one of the mining systems. Before she could sit on the.
provide larger subjects for Elliot's experiment.
Before
Before
she could.
into toys to bring to life, he's using children.
Children
oh, come
as-
on. Just when I thought we would get through an episode without
They're turning-
reference. But that's
yeah.
not all, because Poppy Playtime saw FNAF's dead
Yep.
kids and said, "Hold my remnants." Because if stuffing kids wasn't
Though
bad
despite
enough,
this-
these aren't just
though
any
despite this-
children, they're orphans.
Though despite telling them this, there are. Though despite telling them this, they're a bit hesitant on following her orders,
That's creepy
especially
as
that
hell.
one guy. Especially that one. Especially
Imagine that in your
especially the
hallway.
guy.
That's gonna
Especially
give
the
you
guy with the
nightmares.
little sam. Especially the guy with the samurai head. Especially the guy with the samurai helmet, as he.
Called me mommy.
Especially the guy with the samurai
I think they would
helmet, as he
gladly
states
never
that he
come
was
back,
the next
because
in line
who would
to be
ever come
Grand
to that place
Inquisitor.
ever again?
Because, you know, that's literally the name of
However-
the toy. We see the commercial at the very beginning of the chapter. You've also
However,
got
it
an
only-
entire game talking about
However,
the
it only
third
took.
person, so
However, it
it's
only
gonna
took
be a
her.
shock to you. But
Yeah.
you know what? She's
However,
actually
it only
probably
took her.
right. If this
However,
yellow, pink
however,
suit
it only
is
took her a
something
few
the
minutes.
kids have to a mom, then
However-
chances are
however,
they're
it only took-
parentless. This also
Right.
directly
However,
affects
it only
the
took
kids
the.
throughout the
However, it
That's
only.
just so
However, it
messed
only
up.
took the fact.
Killing orphans and stuffing them into like
However-
toys.
however,
and
it
using
only
them as,
took
like,
the-
product.
However, it only took the fact that Darth Vader.
These children being tested are orphans. That's why, despite there being literally hundreds of experiments, notice that the
Right.
experiment numbers go from the 800s all the way to the thousands. No missing children's reports are ever filed. I mean, heck, even Freddy's had to close after 5. This also applies to a select number of the game's death screens.
I mean, at this point in the story, it's gonna be a lot more than 5 children in FNAF.
Adopted by the company or turned into toys. And I'm sure at this point they're all well aware of the fates that are worse than death, like we see in another death screen. I still stand by our first theory on this one. I'm convinced that these death screens are Poppy talking to us. At the end of the chapter, she says that she has plans for us and prevents us from escaping on the train. This perfectly lines up with
One of the
death
biggest
screens like,
backstab moves I've ever
this isn't
seen.
about you.
However-
I still have plans for you.
However, it only took the fact that Vader allowed her to.
Those that I've already mentioned.
However, it only took the fact that Vader. However, it only took the fact that. However, it only took the fact that Vader allowed her to lead the hunt. That she. However, it only took the. However, it only took the. However, it only took.
Is that the?
However, it only took the fact that.
Or like.
However, it only took the fact that she tells them that Vader. However, it only took that. However, it only took that Vader. However, it only took them. However, it only took them. However, it only took the fact.
This on its own doesn't really tell us anything new.
However,
you start to combine it with the other red screen.
Yeah, they're hungry, all right.
However, it only took her. However, it only took them. However, it only took them a few.
May we forget death. This is no longer.
However, it only took them.
She's horrified by the creation of these monsters using human test subjects. She.
However, it only took them to.
Who blames her?
However, it only took them to follow her orders after she reminded. However, it only took them to follow her orders after she tells them that Vader allowed her to lead the hunt.
Except, you know, they're talking about a
So they activated a bunch of doors.
set monster.
So they did what they. So she did. So they did what they said. So she. So they did what they told. So they followed her command. So they followed her command. So they followed her command and activated a bunch of drones.
When we die. In fact, why did we feel so compelled to return to the factory in the first place?
Unless
So they willingly.
were the people responsible.
So they followed her. So they followed her command. So they followed her command and activated a bunch of droids to. So they followed her command and activated a bunch of droids to hunt down Obi-Wan.
That's honestly, that's any logical person. That's what any logical person would do.
About this since chapter 1, but at the time I just didn't have enough to give a definitive answer. Then here we are in chapter 2, and Mommy says this.
But you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
How does she know that we worked here unless she recognizes us? We know, thanks to tapes from people like Marcus Brickley, that most employees weren't aware that the factory was creating these giant living toys.
I took a peek beneath the gate.
That was an awesome Japanese
Bloody
cameo.
thing was doddering about the bloody hallway.
Thing? You're sure it wasn't a person?
Ain't no person that's 50 feet long with 1,000 legs.
Marcus, you're losing me. Maybe you just saw a bunch of people walking by.
Look, it wasn't people, alright? I haven't a bloody notion what it was, but it wasn't human.
Plus, in front of the emergency exit that you find after falling through the vent, there's a note from Eddie M.N. Ritterman that also confirms this. Quote, this project should only be known about by those with the authority at Warrenbach and those with authority at Playtime. So, for Mommy to recognize us as an employee, we need to be someone with the authority to be involved in the experimentation.
So we have to be like someone like a part of the higher ranks, I guess.
1222, aka Mommy Longlegs. And in this note, we learn that she's being hostile to scientists working there. The note ends with, quote, have her transferred to high security maintenance immediately. Conditioning can begin. We also hear about suppression treatments from the VHS tape about 1006. But as we know in indie horror games, conditioning is never a painless process.
Let's encourage Baby to cheer up with a controlled shock.
I promise, I'm really not trying to make this game sound more and more like FNAF. Stuff just
I mean,
kind of writes itself.
At least they're trying, but you're not exactly wrong. I mean, there's like a lot of inspiration around it. You can't deny it otherwise.
Some employee at the factory, are we a scientist then? One of the many people
most
working on
likely.
the experiments?
I mean, it would make sense of why the toys would hunt us down.
Just after you chase Mommy and Poppy down a giant hole, you
If we were a scientist, if we were a scientist that, you know, worked here, it would make sense they would try to kill us.
We just came out of the slide with the name Elliot Ludwig above it, who we already know is the creator, founder, and CEO.
Right.
The other slides have the names Leith Pierre, Eddie MNR, and Stella Graber. We were first introduced to Leith Pierre right at the very beginning of Chapter 1.
Hi, my name is
Oh,
Leith
so
Pierre, and I'm the head of
I remember.
innovation here at the
So he was the guy that we
We also hear Leith's voice as the person interviewing Marcus.
one of the first characters that we heard of.
What happened?
You see, I was heading home for the day when my apars realized that I left me bloody wallet in the cafeteria. So I'm running through the lobby, and that's when I see it. A mop handle lodged under the innovation wing gate.
Now, what Marcus said there might seem insignificant, but it's not. It's Jacksepticeye. Of course, he's going to be important for the lore. Before jumping into the hole after Mommy and Poppy, if you look around, you can actually see 5 corridors that lead to different wings of the factory, like the game station and innovation. 5 slides, 5 different wings to the factory. So if this is truly a center point leading to all the different wings, and all the slides lead from high-ranking members' offices, it would stand to reason that each name is associated with a different wing of the factory. For example, one of the wings is labeled Play Place, which sounds very similar to where Chapter 3 has taken place, Playcare.
Right.
We know that Stella is someone with authority at Playtime, as she was in charge of sorting through all the orphan kids' test scores, and is therefore the one that would decide which kids move forward on the train headed to the next stop, Playcare, where she could then monitor and begin the experimentation process. And as Stella's voice is heard in the game station, it would lead me to suspect that Stella's in charge of all play elements of the facility, so the Play Place would likely come under her control. This leaves us with 2 wings left, research and production. Eddie MNR is a bit hard to pinpoint as we've only ever had 1 letter from him, but his note does refer to the creation of the lab that these experiments are taking place in. As such, it makes the most sense for him to be the head of research, or some similar sort of title, which leaves us then with the production wing. And you see, this is where we come in. You see, there are 4 slides with names that we've already mentioned, but there is one more in the right-hand corner, hidden in shadow. I suspect that this one is our slide. Someone who
I did not see that.
Aware of the living toys.
That's an app. There was a slide there?
Someone with an elite enough title that they got their own tube slide. We are the head of production. We're the ones putting these toys together, using the parts of the children from the game station. And when the toys malfunction,
so we're the guy who created these monsters. That's crazy.
To fix the faulty
if that
parts.
actually is true.
That is why we're here. It's the only wing of the factory that's left unaccounted for. It explains our role in the narrative. It explains why Mommy recognizes us and why we're back, to either atone for our sins or to burn the entire place down so no one ever finds out what we did here. But that's not the end of it though. If I'm right and this is meant to be our slide, we've actually been given a name. I mentioned that the 5th slide has no name above it, but the letters for the sign do seem to be present just on the floor. JAHYEONBAIM. Now, names are hard. They're not normal words. Technically, anything can be a name, and you certainly can't just plug it into a word on Scrambler to solve it for you. The team and I spent a few hours trying various combinations of letters, and I spent even longer going through both chapters of the game trying to find some kind of...
Honestly, I love it, MatPat's dedication to his series. That just shows how much he loves doing his job.
I did come up with a couple of possibilities, though. Things like Benjamin Yo, Benjamin Hoey, or Jay Bohemian. Can't say that they're anything definitive. However, there was one that stood out from the rest. One that seemed to fit with the world of this game and with the other names of characters. Ladies and gentlemen, I predict that our character's name is... drumroll please...
That's not a drum roll, that's a suspense song.
Jamie B. Honey. Feels like it fits
Jamie
into a
B.
toy factory,
Honey?
doesn't it? We are Jamie B.
Honestly,
Honey,
that does
the
sound
head
like a
of production,
name
returning to
in
the factory to try and
that
undo all the
sounds
wrongs
perfect
that he
in
and
this
his
universe.
coworkers committed all those years ago. Or, you know, we're trying to make sure that everything stays buried. We were vital to the production of these living toys, turning them from regular plastic and fur into the hellish nightmares that we see. And the future chapters are only going to reveal more monsters. And maybe it'll confirm the fact that in this story, the humans were the real monsters all along. But
hey,
that's
it's just a theory. A game theory.
Thanks for watching.
I love it when he does that. So it seems as though that MatPat's theory is telling us that we're most likely the villain of this story, rather than the hero. But then again, it's just a theory, so we'll have to see until the later chapters. Once again, MatPat's become a great source of lore explaining, and I said this once, and I'll say it again, I really do appreciate his dedication to his videos. It just shows us how much he loves making these videos and how much fun he's having with it. Now all we have to do is wait for the next chapter of Poppy Playtime, and we'll see how the story goes.
But with all this being said, I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to follow me on my TikTok as well as my Instagram, and the link to those accounts are in the description down below. And I'll see you next time.